An explosion partially collapses the bridge linking occupied Crimea with Russia, killing 3 people in the process. Moscow has not yet apportioned blame.
The Kremlin appointed a new overall commander for its military after Moscow suffered a series of military setbacks in Ukraine. The German rail operator blamed cable sabotage for a major disruption across the north of the country on Saturday.
The Ministers of Interior of the EU Med5 group call for more support from the bloc to frontline countries to deal with migration. A fire rages on the bridge linking Russia with the occupied Crimean Peninsula after a vehicle bomb caused the partial collapse of the vital link to the territory. Moscow hasn't yet apportioned blame and Kyiv hasn't claimed responsibility for the attack. Opened in 2018, the bridge is not just important for civilian logistics, but also to Moscow's troops fighting in the south of Ukraine. Although Russian authorities decided not to suspend naval traffic under the bridge, a map online showed a large bottleneck building up. The Russian-appointed head of Crimea assured the restoration works will start today and tried to calm fears of supplies running low. He said, "I want to assure Crimeans that the fuel reserves are sufficient for a month. Food stocks are more than enough for 2 months. There are no risks in this respect. I call on all of the inhabitants of Crimea to keep calm, all the tourists of the peninsula to be patient." Meanwhile, in the center of Kyiv, an improvised postal stamp was quickly installed, celebrating the explosion. It's in a similar style to other stamps, such as the sinking of the Russian flagship, the Moskva.
It was wonderful. When I woke up and read the news, I thought, what? I mean, I expected that something was going to happen because yesterday was Putin's birthday. He turned 70. So I was waiting for a present from the armed forces of Ukraine. And it happened with a bit of a delay, but that's life. I hope the dictator Putin can forgive us.
This is not just a strategic nightmare for Russia, but also a symbolic one. The bridge was a very obvious sign of Russia's ambition to incorporate Ukrainian areas into its territory.
Russia has appointed a new commander to lead its troops in Ukraine after the Kremlin suffered a series of military setbacks in the past weeks. Sergei Surovikin, an army general, previously led Russian forces in Syria, and he is known for his brutal and sometimes controversial tactics. This is the first time an official announcement has been made appointing a single overall commander since the start of the invasion. The change follows the reported sacking earlier this week of 2 Russian army commanders. Meanwhile, Russia has been concentrating its latest attacks in Ukraine on the southern city of Zaporizhia, home to Europe's largest nuclear power plant. The UN atomic watchdog has renewed calls for a protection zone around the power plant, which lost its last external power source as a result of artillery fire and is now relying on emergency diesel generators. All 6 reactors are shut down, but they still require electricity for cooling and other essential safety functions.
Residents in the recaptured Ukrainian city of Lyman await the distribution of humanitarian aid. It was only last week that it was liberated from 4 months of Russian occupation, and the authorities now have an enormous support task on their hands. You know, almost all the occupied settlements share the same problem, says this spokeswoman for the Donetsk Regional Administration. They're completely destroyed. The infrastructure as well as the houses. And we can see what people need most is psychological support. The flag flies proudly at the entry of the city, but behind it are scenes of devastation. Tetiana is wearing recovered Russian army clothes because her own were destroyed when a rocket hit her house. I was at home when we were struck, she says. I fell into the bathroom and my daughter was in the hallway. How we weren't killed, I don't know. Some Leyman residents express anger towards neighbours who supported the pro-Russian separatist movement before the war. Alexander is proud he held on to his Ukrainian flag. I saved it, he says, because I was waiting for the Ukrainian army to come to liberate us from the Russian yoke. The liberation may have come, but the reconstruction has only just begun.
An act of sabotage disrupted train travel across northern Germany on Saturday morning. All high-speed regional and cargo trains in the north of the country were interrupted for nearly 3 hours due to radio link cables being cut. Police said the sabotage happened in a Berlin suburb and in Herne in the west. The German rail operator said that the incident is currently under investigation, but there was no immediate information on potential suspects. In addition to regional trains, some international routes were affected as well. Trains from and to Berlin via Amsterdam were completely cancelled, while trains from Denmark weren't crossing the border into Germany.
The ministers of the interior of Cyprus, Greece, Malta and Spain met in Paphos for the fourth ministerial meeting of the Med5 group of countries, although the Italian minister did not attend. The group called for more action to protect the EU's external borders.
We call upon the Commission and the Council to finally acknowledge the increased duties assigned to frontline member states. It is essential to provide for an effective, predictable and mandatory solidarity mechanism that reflects the needs on the ground.
The Med5 group also referenced the war in Ukraine and its effect on the global economy in making action even more urgent, fearful that migration will surge.
The impact of the war and the increasing prices of basic commodities have resulted in a new wave of economic migrants. Sub-Saharan migrants who originally seek employment in Libya and turns to smugglers when things do not work out as planned. People are dying around us. A tragedy after another, from Lebanon to the Atlantic.
We Southern European countries know that no system can ever work if the burden of responsibility continues to fall almost exclusively on the countries of first entry. The events of recent months should make more and more countries, more and more member states aware of this reality.
Euronews' Apostolos Staikos was at the conference. He said from 2015 until today, the countries of the south have received significant funds to manage the large number of refugees and migrants they received. Yet many believe that this money was given so that the south could be turned into a big prison where people arrive and get trapped. The Med5 argues that this is a common challenge and that all countries must take their responsibilities.
Από την Πάφο για το Euronews, Apostolos Staikos.
At least 10 people have died after a huge explosion at a petrol station in County Donegal in the northwest of the Republic of Ireland. A search operation is continuing as a number of people are still missing. 8 more people were also taken to a nearby hospital. The explosion happened at an Apple Green service station in the village of Krieslau on Friday afternoon. The blast destroyed the petrol station and a section of a nearby apartment building. Many emergency service vehicles remained at the scene overnight, including fire service from both the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland, which is part of the UK. A Coast Guard helicopter airlifted some of those who were injured in the blast. A Coast Guard helicopter airlifted some of those who were injured in the blast to be treated in Dublin.
Several thousand people took to the streets of Berlin this Saturday to protest against the government's energy policies. The event was organized by the far-right AfD party in Germany in order to speak out against the soaring energy prices in the country. In response to the AfD event, several counter-demonstrations ran in parallel. Thousands of people marched in Rome on Saturday. It's the powerful Italian trade union CGIL that organized the protest to commemorate 1 year since its headquarters were attacked by a mob of neo-fascists. The Minister of Labor, Andrea Orlando, is expected to join the march. The organizers have also announced 10 key proposals they want to present to the newly elected center-right government.